So you know who will stand up against this is Rand Paul. Rand Paul's standing up against the Restrict Act.
Hey, Ron Paul Zero got a little bit of taste of Coke, right? But
this is the Restrict Act, which takes away any sense of constitutional protections of your freedom, liberty, privacy, and it turns us into a third world dictatorship where the government spies on you 24/7 and doesn't have to tell you about it. This is worse than China.
This is worse than China. I'm telling you, it's worse than China. It's unbelievable.
So Rand Paul is going to object to the Restrict Act. Let's listen.
The Republican strategy to ban TikTok comes simultaneously with GOP complaints of domestic social media companies canceling and censoring conservatives. Without a hint of irony, many of these same conservatives now rail against censorship while advocating for censorship against social media apps they worry are influenced by the Chinese. Before banning TikTok,
that's already almost a comedy bit. He's explaining the situation, and it lays itself out comedically. Just if you lay it out logically, it's already funny.
Users might want to discover that China already bans TikTok. Do we really want to emulate Chinese speech bans? Aren't we the ones that say it's wrong for China to ban speech, so we're going to be just like China and ban speech we're afraid of? The Vice President of FreedomWorks, John Tamney, perhaps described this situation best. Nauseating harassment of TikTok presumes Americans will be saved from Chinese authoritarianism if U.S. politicians act like Chinese authoritarians. We're going to be saved from speech if we ban it in our country. My goodness, could we think of anything more antithetical to the freedom of speech? Well, go to the app. They say, oh, the app's full of propaganda, and your young people will be dancing into communism. Well, go to the app and search for Falun Gong, the anti-communist religious sect that is persecuted in China. Go to TikTok and search for videos advocating Taiwan's independence, criticism of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Videos are all over TikTok that are critical of official Chinese positions. That's why TikTok is banned in China. Do we want to follow China's lead in banning speech? We should not let fear of communism to cause us to ignore our First Amendment protections of speech. This legislation violates not only the First Amendment of those who own TikTok, many of whom are actually Americans, not Chinese, but it also violates the First Amendment rights of the millions of young Americans who use this social media app. I ask the American people, do you want Joe Biden to be your censor? Do you want to give unlimited power to any president, regardless of party, to decide who is our adversary and which countries, and then which countries? There's not even a list of what percentage. What if the Chinese own 1% of a company or 10% of a company? One of the bills before us would allow the Department of Commerce to decide. There's 5 countries they list that are adversaries. These are big countries that have a lot of interaction with our country already. Decide which country in addition to the 5. The Department of Commerce can designate a country as an adversary, but then they can designate a company. But there's no specific. Do the new people that are designated to be an adversary have to own 100% of the company, 50% of the company, 1% of the company? This is a crazy gift of power to one person. And I don't care which party they're in, it's a huge mistake.
Rand Paul getting it 100% correct. And all he's doing is just telling you the situation as it is. And it turns out it's a logical argument that's waterproof. And it's funny. That's how good of an argument it is. It's funny all by itself. You don't even have to try to make it funny. Americans don't care. Barack Obama repealed habeas corpus, meaning that they can put you in jail without a trial forever. That's called indefinite detention. And all they have to do is the government has to say, hey, man, you're a terrorist. And you could be, like at DAPL, when they were protesting the pipelines, they called those protesters ecological, environmental terrorists. Yeah. So now they can throw you in jail without a trial forever. if those truckers in Canada were Americans, they would have called them terrorists. They're economic terrorists because they're shutting down our economy.
Right.
They're economic terrorists, so they would throw them in jail without a trial forever.
Wait, but we blew up Nord Stream. That wasn't terror?
That's not.
Okay.
No, that's good old American Christian stuff. And Barack Obama did that, and this is the Uniparty. This is the Democrats and the Republicans all want to do this. Okay. Wow.
This is probably the worst news of all the many bad newses here.
And this is, but people are gonna, if you bring this up to your people who vote for Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, they'll think that there's something wrong with you. Like, they're just gonna try to protect us from our enemies. What's wrong with you guys? You don't like censorship? What are you all like, Elon Musk?
All the supposed wokey stuff, those kids are on TikTok, so they're making a big mistake, I think.
We'll see.
Trying to push this through because it's going to be I hope that there's enough people that who gets to vote on this.
This is not the country I grew up in. I'll tell you that. This is not the country I grew up in, and the authoritarian dictatorship, crazy censorship. Spying on your own citizen stuff it doesn't seem it's going to stop.
Well, what's funny? It all sounds like the crazy, born again Christian miniature Bible comic prophecies.
Yeah.
But the thing is, those always suppose that it was actually the UN that's behind it all, and they're going to stop America.
Right.
And they didn't take into account the calls coming from inside the house. It's America
it's
doing
America.
this. Yeah.
Go to jimmydore.com to see my new stand-up special, COVID Lies Are Funny. For only $10, you get to become a premium member, too. And come see us do our live shows. We're going to be doing stand-up comedy in Milwaukee, Nashville, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, New York, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Maryland, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets. It's not going well for Kamala Harris. They sent her to Africa to make friends. And she can't make friends at home. I don't know what.
Oh, she's half as charming there as she is here.
It says leaders in Ghana, Zambia slammed the United States for undemocratic meddling amid Vice President Harris's tour of Africa. Well, it sure sounds bad if you say it like that.
Wait.
Undemocratic meddling?
Oh, no, that's for the other one.
Come on. Undemocratic.
That's for his...
I got it. So watch this. So this is the guy. He's Zambian opposition leader. His name is Fred Menembe. This is his speech during the visit from Kamala Harris. This is the speech during her visit. Okay, ready?
A country that has toppled so many governments in Africa, that has led so many coups in Africa and other parts of the world. A country that has killed so many of our leaders in Africa and other parts of the world. The killers of Patrice Lumumba, those who toppled Kwame Nkrumah, those who killed Nasser, those who killed Muammar Gaddafi, today are coming to teach us about democracy. A country that has been built on brutal force, on enslavement of other human beings, on the humiliation of Africans, the exploitation of Africans, the plunder of Africa, today is coming to teach us about democracy. If you have no respect for the dignity of others, if you have no respect for the sovereignty of other countries, you cannot claim to be a champion of democracy.
Bam. That's the African stream. Bam.
Oh, I should have heard giggling as he sang it.
Yeah. So he's laying it out. America, you are the imperialists. You killed all our African leaders. You pillage our natural resources. You come in and you're going to lecture us about democracy.
Sir, Kamala Harris doesn't know anything about that stuff.
And this is from, again, their official Twitter, African Stream, says, no China obsession here. So now watch, here is, this is from Ghana. So he's going to, watch what he says about China and the United States.
There may be an obsession in America about Chinese activities on the continent, but there's no such obsession here. China is one of the many countries with whom Ghana is engaged in the world. No country is one of them. Virtually all the countries in the world are friends of Ghana.
That's right. Everybody in the world is friends of Ghana. And I guess he's just calling America just like another hoe.
Yeah, I see a lot of countries.
That's hurtful.
Well, Ghana's the one they always said was the least corrupt, and that's like even the neoliberal rags.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to trash Ghana if that's what they say. They're the ones that the same neoliberal said was like the good one.
So this is not Africa is done. It seems like with the United States, especially now it's turned to Russia, and it's turned to China to make peace, to make investments in their continent. The United States just comes in, like they said, and they kill their leaders and meddle in their politics. Remember this? South African politician says he'll pick Putin up from the airport to avoid arrest. So they're not. Africa is turning on the United States. Russia writes off $20 billion in debt to African countries. I thought we were kicking their ass in this Ukraine war, and we were crushing their economy, and their economy is so crushed they can write off $20 billion in debt to Africa? Really? My God, Putin he's rebuilding communism.
You just forgive debt.
Writing off debt?
Yeah.
That's communism.
It's called moral hazard. Putin.
Can Harris visit shore up relations with Africa? That's the question in Foreign Policy magazine. Can Kamala Harris visit shore up relations with Africa?
Surely they knew the answer to the question before they finished typing the question.
The only way it could work is if Kamala Harris can giggle their relationship. The vice president's trip is the latest effort to counter Moscow's and Beijing influence on the continent with a giggle, with a laugh. She's laughing right there.
Yeah.
It's a good looking suit, though. I gotta say, I kind of like that suit. I like the color. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris began her 3-nation Africa tour on Saturday, landing in Accra, Ghana, as part of a visit that includes stops to Tanzania and Zambia. She is the 18th and most senior U.S. official to visit Africa this year, as the United States looks to loosen Russia's and China's alliance with African nations. Wow. We already tried throwing Anthony Blinken at this problem, and somehow that didn't work. You remember they sent Anthony Blinken over there?
We gotta bring out the big guns.
Mm-hmm. And they said the same shit right to his face, by the way. Despite the heavy charm offensive... Boy, if there's one name I think of when I hear heavy charm offensive, it's Kamala Harris.
Well, Blinken and then Harris, don't spoil them.
She's over there she's facing a barrier in undoing years of what many Africans perceived as previous U.S. administrations' undervaluing of the strategic relationship that Africa states can offer. But the message now from Washington's diplomats is that the United States foreign policy is committed to moving away from what has traditionally been a relationship more focused on national security partnerships to one with a focus on grassroots development.
What does that mean? Medical experiments on the populace?
That's what it sounds like. Wow. Anyway. Well, it's just funny. They have Kamala Harris doing a charm offensive in Africa. Why doesn't she try to do that here?
Yeah. Why don't we move on forward? Well, instead of focusing on national security, we're supposed to focus on grassroots development.
There is a certain amount of skepticism from African governments and citizens. Many are aware that the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war is behind their renewed interest. The official stance from these countries is that they are not aligned with either Russia or the West in this war. Wow. Really? So when they say there's a certain amount of skepticism from African governments and citizens, I think they mean utter disbelief. I think that's what they mean. Others, such as South Africa, have appeared on friendlier terms with Russia, controversially hosting joint naval exercises that coincided with the one-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Wow, there's a thumb in your eye. Historical issues beyond the war complicate matters, though, Kurt. Did you know that?
It's complicated, you guys.
It's complicated. While the Soviet Union had supported independent movements and the anti-apartheid struggle, the U.S. government designated today's ruling African National Congress a terrorist organization during the Cold War.
It's complicated.
So Russia was all on the side of independence in Africa, as the United States was calling their African National Congress a terrorist organization.
It's not that we loved apartheid. It's just that we hated communism so much that we didn't care if they had to have apartheid.
They had to have it.
So that's
right.
not the same as being evil, right?
So but what this, sure we did that. Sure the U.S. government said that they were all terrorists during the Cold War, but I think they're forgetting America opposed apartheid in the most important way of all, Kurt, by making Lethal Weapon 2. Don't you remember that?
That's what I could credit with ending it.
I agree.
Lethal, Danny Glover and Mel Gibson ended
did it.
That practice. Wait, I just realized that during the Cold War, so they called Mandela was called a terrorist in the Cold War.
Yeah.
And Bin Laden was called a freedom fighter in our own papers.
That's right.
Great. Complicated.
It's complicated. Last month, African nations still accounted for nearly half of all abstentions on the UN General Assembly resolution that condemned Russia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken suggested this history was making it difficult to change African countries' decades-long relationship with Moscow.
You suggested maybe that could be.
You know, when Africans bring up America supporting apartheid, I just think that's whataboutism.
Yeah. We can talk about that. Not now.
Yeah.
Right now, we got to talk about Russia.
Listen to this, Kurt. Unfortunately, more than unfortunately, the United States was too sympathetic to the apartheid regime, so that history also doesn't get erased, overnight. It's a process. That's what Antony Blinken said.
We're trying to seize control of the internet to work on that.
Kurt, how many more Lethal Weapons movies is it going to take to fix this problem?
There's going to take 3 more.
I like how it says, unfortunately, more than unfortunately, the United States was much too sympathetic to the apartheid regime. I wonder if there are any groups in the world that the United States is currently being too sympathetic to.
Can't think of one.
I have not seen any of them lately. Oh, wait, maybe the Nazis in Ukraine. So that guy we showed you before, Fred Mbembe, the leader of Zambia's Socialist Party, he said that his country is playing a key role in the United States anti-China crusade. It's not democracy and human rights they are pursuing in Africa. They are pursuing their geopolitical interests. They are pursuing their own economic interests. It's not for us, it's for them, Mbembe said.
Yeah, no kidding. If you bring it up to somebody who thinks America should intervene everywhere, they'll go, well, that's the reality. We got to do stuff. Well, these are the people that you got to do stuff to do that, and you think they're going to fall for it?
Kurt, what's good for the United States is good for democracy,
Oh, that's true. If it is democracy itself, yeah.
Historically, the United States and Europe led their engagements through the prism of Africa as a problem to fix, whereas China focused on trade, becoming the region's largest partner. So when the United States looked at Africa as a problem to fix, what that means is that historically we murder their leaders whenever we want.
Yeah,
that's what that
means. Was the problem we fixed.
That's the problem. We got another problem we got to fix. And so I don't have to show you this, but this was when Antony Blinken went there last, I think it was August. When is this from? Yeah, August. So when Antony Blinken went there, they said the same thing. That she was that's the Naledi Pandor. She's the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa. And she said the same stuff. I don't need to show it to you. So not going well for Kamala Harris. She's got a tough job. I got to say, she's got a tough job turning the people of Africa around after we, killed their leaders and done all the stuff to them. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Good luck, Kamala. Hope you laugh it up. Go to jimmydore.com to see my new stand-up special, COVID Lies Are Funny. For only $10, you get to become a premium member, too. And come see us do our live shows. We're going to be doing stand-up comedy in Milwaukee, Nashville, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, New York, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Maryland, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.